Buying a home feels out of reach when you don't have a huge savings account, right? But I want to make sure that you understand that there are options where working with your family can help you buy sooner. Let's talk about 4 ways that families are helping each other buy now. If we haven't met yet, I'm Rebecca Richardson, aka the Mortgage Mentor, and I give people simple solutions that get them real results. I love taking the complexities of mortgage and making them make sense so you can take these tips and take actionable steps to get you what you want in real estate. With over 20 years in the business, I've helped thousands of buyers and realtors get what they want when it comes to real estate, cut through the nonsense, and have solutions that work. If you're serious about owning a home or helping someone do that, then you're in the right place. Every video that I do is meant to give you the tools that you need to win in this market. But here's the thing, strategies change fast, so I don't want you to make decisions based off of old info. Be sure to subscribe so you can get the latest information to help you do what you want. But here's the thing, strategies change fast. So if you don't have up-to-date information, you could potentially make a wrong move or spend unnecessary money. So subscribe, make sure that you've got the right information so you can get ahead. Saving for a down payment is one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to buying a home. Last year, the average down payment was around $26,000, which is a lot of money for a lot of people. But one of the strategies that I see being used more and more is getting a gifted down payment from family. Saving for a down payment can be one of the biggest hurdles that buyers face, but you don't have to do it alone. Last year, the average down payment was around $26,000, which is a lot of money for a lot of people. But with the help of family, it can help speed up your timeline if you're getting a gift. There are a couple things to keep in mind if you are getting a gifted down payment. The donor will depend a little bit on the loan type that you're doing. So for example, with an FHA loan, the options are a little bit more flexible than when it comes to conventional. And then for VA and USDA, they also have restrictions as far as who can and can't give a gift. As a general rule, it's typically going to be anybody who's in your immediate family, siblings, parents, grandparents, sometimes family friends, partners. So again, depending on what loan type is best for you based off of all your other criteria, that will determine who is going to be the best donor in order to give you that gifted down payment. They can give you some of the down payment, all of the down payment. They can contribute to closing costs, anything that might be needed to help shore up whatever shortage you might have to make this possible. One thing to keep in mind is that it's not a loan. So you and your donor will sign a gift letter that says this money is being gifted and there's not an expectation of repayment. So you both will sign that letter that says this is how much is being given, this is the relationship of the donor, and this is the property that you're purchasing. That's not something that necessarily you need to have signed or have exactly the amount worked out, say when you're getting pre-approved. But that is something to bring up when you're talking with a lender like myself, when you're going through, what you're wanting the payment to be and how much you're wanting to buy and how much you have set aside for this transaction, or if a gift is going to be involved. You'll want to make sure that the loan officer knows, yes, you're getting a gift and the relationship of that donor as it relates to you. Now, the second strategy is called the kitty condo strategy. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a kid and it doesn't have to be a condo, but essentially what that is talking about is where you have a non-occupant co-borrower. And that is where you essentially have a co-signer. So if, for example, you've had some credit challenges and maybe your credit doesn't meet the minimum credit score needed for a program, having a non-occupant co-borrower like a parent doesn't necessarily override that credit the way that it does if, say, you're buying a car or you're getting an apartment. But really the point of having the kitty condo strategy or having a co-borrower is to add in extra income. So when you have a non-occupant co-borrower, that just means that their income as well as their debts are being factored in the same as yours, but they are not living in the property. You're living in the property, and that does make it a primary residence, which means the down payments can be lower, as little as 3.5%. And that also that the interest rates are better because it's going to be a primary residence versus, say, a second home or an investment property. So when you're looking at a co-borrower, they will be on the loan the same as you. They will have ownership in the property just like you are. And then also understanding perhaps what the exit strategy is. So a lot of times this is something that can be really useful for, say, somebody who's just getting out of college or trade school and maybe they're starting their career, but perhaps they're in a commission job and the commission can't yet be used for loan approval. You know that you can afford the payment, or perhaps, again, that co-borrower, perhaps a parent, is willing to maybe help subsidize some of your monthly payment until your income is up to the point where it needs to be where you can qualify on your own. Once it is, then you can refinance to remove them from the loan, remove them from title, But in the interim, it helps get you in the home sooner so you can start building equity. The third option is called the Family Opportunity Mortgage. And this is where if someone wants to buy a home for a family member, but they don't want the higher down payment or higher rates that are associated with a second home or an investment property. So in this case, it is a conventional loan and the down payment would need to be at least 5%. But this is a real nice advantage because if it's a second home, you have to put 10% down. And if it would be considered an investment property, then you're putting at least 15% down, more likely 20 to 25. The rates are also higher if it's not a primary residence. So just like in the kitty condo strategy, you get primary residence rates. So you're saving money there and you're saving money on the down payment. This can be used when there's a situation where perhaps there is an aging parent or grandparent, or perhaps there is an adult disabled child. So they are not going to be on the mortgage in the way that they would be for the kitty condo strategy, but you will be on the mortgage purchasing it for them. And then there's a letter of explanation in terms of, I'm purchasing this home for my mother so she can be closer to me, I can help with her care, or something like that that shows that it is being purchased for your family member and why they're not purchasing it on their own. And then the last option is what's called a gift of equity. And that's where you're purchasing a property that a family member owns. So a lot of times it can be like a grandparent, sometimes a parent, and where that gift of equity comes into play is where they are selling the home to you for below market. So let's say that they could sell the home for $400,000, but perhaps because they love you lots and they want to help you get a head start in life, maybe they're willing to sell it to you for only perhaps $350 or $370, something along those lines, where they are then gifting part of the equity in the property to you to help cover your down payment and to help cover closing costs. So I've had clients where they have this situation and you can use a conventional loan, FHA, VA, USDA. And what they're essentially doing is they are buying a home where, yes, they qualify for the mortgage on their own, but they're not paying a down payment or closing costs. So instead of taking the $400,000 equity or gains that the seller could have if they marketed it on the open market and sold it to a non-family member, what they're doing is saying, hey, I'm going to net a little bit less. I'm going to take a little bit less on this property, on this sale, and I'm going to give it to you in the form of the down payment and closing costs. And honestly, this is one of my favorite ways for people to work with family in terms of being able to buy a home, because, by buying by a relative, you're still keeping that home in the family. You help build, they are helping you to build that generational wealth. And it's really just kind of cool because you have the nostalgia of keeping that home within the family. So let's break this down one more time, because if you have access to one of these options, it can save you time and money. You have the gifted down payment option, which can help you cover those upfront costs for down payment and closing costs. You have a kitty condo, so if the income isn't quite enough in order to qualify on your own, you can bring in someone else with their income to help qualify for the loan. And then we have the Family Opportunity Mortgage, and that's where someone is buying a home for a family member. So not both on the same loan, not on title, but they are purchasing it for the purpose of, again, a parent, a grandparent, or an adult disabled child. And the last option is a gift of equity. And that's where one relative is selling to another relative. You're able to keep the home in the family, and the relative that is selling is taking a little bit less in profit. They are gifting you the opportunity to not necessarily have to have a down payment or closing costs. These strategies are real, they work, I use them all the time, and they have helped thousands of buyers get into their home sooner. If one of these options could help you, reach out and let's see how it could help you. And if you found this information helpful and you want to stay ahead of everything that you need to know about financing, buying a home, everything mortgage related, then please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment with any questions. I'll see you next time.